Hello everyone. Back again with film recaps. In this video, I'm going to recap one of the mystery drama films from 2022, titled Where the Crawdads Sing. Before we get to the storyline, I'd like to wish everyone a happy and great day. Without further ado, let's get straight to the storyline. The movie begins on October 30, 1969, in the woods of North Carolina. We see two kids riding their bikes when they stumble upon a dead body on the edge of the swamp near a tower. In utter fear, they call Sheriff Jackson and his coworker, who later recognize the body as Mr. Chase Andrews, the best quarterback the town ever had. What is surprising for the cops is that there are no footprints of him or anyone else in the area. As they climb up the tower, they realize that Chase might have fallen from the broken grate, but Sheriff Jackson is still suspicious about this conclusion.
He opened the grate himself. Could have been an accident all the same.
The autopsy report proves that a sudden impact from a 63-foot drop caused the death. However, to hit the back of his head on the beam, he would have needed to fall backward, which raises the possibility that he might have been pushed. Moreover, the absence of fingerprints on the tower railing or grates, and the presence of red fibers on Chase's denim jacket support the chances of him being murdered. Later that night, when our two cops are sitting in a diner, they overhear some townspeople accusing a girl who lives in the marsh of committing Chase's murder. But what's interesting is that they don't even know what her name is. All they know is there is a woman in the marsh, aka Marsh Girl, who is crazy enough for the loony bin. Suspecting something fishy, the officers visit Marsh Girl's house, only to discover something unexpected related to the case. As the door is opened and no one is there, they go inside when they find a red beanie, presumably the source of those red fibers they found on Chase's jacket. Finally, we are introduced to Marsh Girl, aka Kaya Clark, who is hiding in the woods to avoid getting caught. After a day or two, the cops finally manage to find Kaya while she is boating in the lake. She tried to escape using her swimming skills, but fate had other plans. The townspeople have made up their minds about Kaya's involvement in the murder, and they're starting to band together to spread propaganda against her, only to see her behind bars. Despite all the public's negativity towards her, a retired lawyer, Tom Milton, visits Kaya in her cell, intending to help her prove her innocence. However, when she stands trial, she will be judged by a jury of her peers, who only know her as the Marsh Girl. To help Kaya gain her freedom, Tom must reveal her true story to the judges. At first, the scared Kaya doesn't respond, but before Tom leaves, she finally opens up about her past. The movie then takes us back to 1953, which was 16 years ago. Kaya used to have a family and a loving mother who always made her smile. She also has 4 estranged siblings, except for Jody, who loved her. One day, a local boy named Tate approaches their house, while Kaya and her sisters are playing inside their dad's boat.
Times I told you not to mess in my goddamn boat.
Here we just find out how violent Kaya's father is, and when Tate tries to defend Kaya, he is instead given a warning not to return. Later, the mother, Julianne, cannot bear the torture of her husband, and so she leaves the house, never to return. Kaya tries to stop her, but it's as if Julianne isn't mentally able to hear her screams. When she left, it seems like her siblings follow suit one by one, leaving Kaya feeling more alone than ever. And finally, even Jody, the one who had always cared for her, has to go. Kaya cannot stop her tears seeing Jody leave, and the boy isn't happy either to abandon his little sister behind. Before departing, he advises Kaya to run and hide deep in the marsh, way out where the crawdads sing, whenever she gets in trouble. After everybody left, Kaya learned from their mistakes and begins to avoid her father, Clark, as much as possible to prevent herself from his wrath. One day, she unexpectedly meets Tate, the fisherman's son and a friend of Jody's. There was something about him that eased the tightness in her chest. For the first time since Mom and Jody left, she feels something other than hurt. With each passing day, Kaya builds up the courage to ask her father for more food, so her dad brings her to the store, where he can only afford to buy grits for their food. The store owners, Mabel and Jumpin', sense the situation, and become increasingly kind to Kaya. Mabel even encourages Kaya to go to school, by offering her some clothes, and then secretly giving her some free candy. With the clothes given by Mabel, Kaya decides to attend the school and gets to town, where she runs into Tom, who directs her towards the school. However, on Kaya's first day, things turn for the worse as students mock her for her shabby clothes and unkempt appearance, forcing her to leave and never return to school again.
That was the only day I ever spent in school.
To survive in this cruel world, she finds solace in boating, and her unintentional encounters with Tate. In the meantime, Clark begins to treat her nicely and even gives her his old army knapsack. Just when things get a little smooth for Kaya, a letter from her mother takes away even the slightest ray of happiness from her life. After reading the unexpected letter from Julienne, Clark burns it to ashes, snatching away from Kaya the chance to read a word of it. He tells Kaya that her mother isn't coming back. Heartbroken at losing her last hope of seeing her mother, the little girl saves the ashes of the letter, so she can feel her mother's warmth in any way possible. Later that night, Clark sets his wife's belongings on fire, while Kaya watches helplessly from inside. And then, the day comes when Kaya wakes to yet another terrible news: her father has left her too. The lack of food and other necessities makes it difficult for her to survive for long. Kaya then heads to the lake and collects mussels to sell at Mabel's shop. In exchange for a few pounds of mussels each week, Jumpin provides her with food, and other vital supplies like a matchstick and a candle. While Jumpin approaches the situation with a business mindset, Mabel feels empathy for the young girl and offers her clothes and shoes from time to time. It's the present day, and Mabel still sends Kaya some clothes she wears for her first trial. If found guilty at the end of the trial, she will face the death penalty. Chase's family lawyer persuades the jury that Kaya lured Chase Andrews to the tower, and pushed him to his death. Meanwhile, Tom calms Kaya down, and tells everyone that there's no evidence to back up Chase's lawyer's words. Miss Kaya finds herself here because it's easier to blame her based on where she came from than to rely on facts. Tom advises Kaya to take a plea bargain. This means that if she admits to being at the tower that night and having a disagreement with Chase, resulting in a tragic accident, Tom can get her out of prison in as little as 6 years. The idea seems beneficial, but Kaya won't say anything that implies guilt, and she wants to get out of prison. The movie then flashes back to 1962, when Kaya has grown older. She frequently spots a man in the woods, but never musters up the courage to talk to him. The man then leaves her a feather, some seeds and a spark plug, as well as a few letters that she can't even read. One day, when they come face to face, the man finally tells her that he is Tate, her childhood friend. An awkward conversation ensues between the two, ending with Tate offering to teach Kaya how to read and write. Starting with the ABCs and moving on to basic biology, Kaya learns passionately and develops a taste for writing. Her drawing skills have become exceptional, and her knowledge of feathers, birds, and other local wildlife is unparalleled. As time passes, she and Tate grow closer, sharing their pasts and mourning their losses. Eventually, their love and care for each other lead them to begin a relationship. Despite Kaya's willingness to start a physical relationship, Tate denies the offer, fearing for Kaya's safety and reputation in town. Meanwhile, social services begin to look for Kaya to put her in a safe shelter, but in reality, they are working with contractors to drain the swamp for hotel construction. Despite these challenges, everything seems perfect in Kaya's life, until Tate drops a bombshell: he is going to college. Devastated by the news, Kaya struggles to control her emotions. She wants Tate to stay, but contrary to what she had thought about their relationship, Tate wants to study, and become more than just a fisherman. Eventually, Kaya says goodbye to him with a heavy heart, but not before Tate provides her with a list of publishers to whom she can send all her drawings and notes, as he thinks her work is very unique. Tate promises that he'll never forget Kaya, and that he'll be back in a month, on the 4th of the next month, to watch fireworks together. He eventually leaves for college, leaving Kaya all by herself once more. Long story short, the day of Tate's return has arrived, and Kaya can't wait to see him again. She's wearing the dress Mabel gave her, and she eagerly waits for him the whole day at the beach. But unfortunately, Tate never shows up, leaving Kaya to feel betrayed and distressed. Later that night, She ends up watching the fireworks by herself, and wakes up the next morning without seeing Tate. Burning Tate's memories, she once again finds solace in the swamp, but it seems like she will never be able to trust someone else again. In the present day, the sheriff who investigates the crime scene argues that Chase's death was a murder, citing the destroyed fingerprints and tracks as evidence. However, Tom says that the tracks must have erased due to high tide. Tom then brings the judge's attention to a crucial point. He reveals that the sheriff had submitted a written request to the U.S. Forest Service to repair the broken grates in the tower the year before, warning that the grates could cause severe injury or death if left untreated. Meanwhile, Kaya recalls the day in 1968, when she first met Chase and his family at the seashore. Before they get to talk, Kaya leaves for her house, only to see yet another developer clicking the photos of the swamp. At Mabel's store, Mabel reveals that the developers are acquiring land to build hotels, and encourages her to do everything it takes to keep her family's last memory. In order to find out if this place really belongs to her, Kaya heads to a land registrar, and comes across Chase midway. After accepting his offer for a date, Kaya visits the land registrar, who later approves that her grandpa bought the house. However, she has to pay some back taxes, and some mean $800 if she wants to keep it. Left with no other means of income, Kaya opts to submit her samples to the publishers Tate listed in the note, in the hopes of receiving a response from them. Later, she joins Chase on a seaside date, but things take a turn for the worse when she starts to feel that the handsome man from the town views her as worthless. Realizing the mistake he made, Chase apologizes to Kaya and takes her to the fire tower to make amends.
Your house is over there, ain't it?
As time passes, the two begin to spend more time together. Kaya didn't know exactly how she felt about Chase, but she was no longer lonely, and that seemed enough for her. Back in the court, it is time for that red wool found on Chase's denim jacket the night he died. As the fibers from Kaya's cap and the jacket match exactly, Chase's lawyer claims she is involved in the murder. Tom quickly argues that the fibers could have been transferred onto Chase's clothes during any of their previous encounters, which could have taken place weeks or even months before the murder. In the past, Kaya receives a response from a publisher, who is captivated by her manuscript and expresses a keen interest in editing and publishing it as soon as possible. After Chase gets promoted in his job, he proposes to Kaya, and Chase brings her to a hotel, where she has her first sexual experience. Here Kaya gives him a rare and ornate shell necklace, which she had found on their first date at the seashore. However, when Chase died, Chase's mother claims that the cops didn't find the necklace on his body, leading them to suspect that Kaya may have taken it before allegedly killing him. But despite a thorough search of her house, the police were unable to find the necklace, leaving the lawyer and Chase's mom nothing to accuse her of without evidence. While Chase and Kaya are still together, Tate finally returns from college, only to find them happy as a couple. However, he quickly realizes that Chase is not suitable for Kaya when he makes inappropriate comments about her body in public and behind her back. Unable to tolerate it, Tate confronts him, and they get into a fight until Jumpin' intervenes. Interestingly, Tate is wearing the same beanie whose wool was found on Chase's jacket. Later that night, Tate visits Kaya, who is furious with him for disappearing without a trace, and not even writing back to let her know he was alive or dead. Tate apologizes for leaving her. He believed that Kaya wouldn't be able to leave the marsh and adjust to a new life, which is why he didn't return. But he eventually realized that he couldn't live without her. Now that he's working at a new lab near town, he asks if there is any way Kaya could forgive him, but she says she doesn't know. Kaya's relationship with Chase is perfect, until one day, she unexpectedly encounters him and his friend in town, who introduces herself as his fiancée. Kaya feels betrayed that Chase acts like nothing happened between them, so she retreats to her house. Chase arrives only minutes later, but before he can catch up to her, Kaya hides in the bushes. She is determined not to give him another opportunity to take advantage of her.
I know you're here, damn it!
People don't stay.
Despite everything, there was still something good in Kaya's life. Her book gets published, giving her enough money to pay the taxes and get her house back. She renovates and repurchased the 310 acres of lagoons, marsh, and oak forests. One day, Jody, her brother, appears out of nowhere after he sees Kaya's book in the store. Jody has joined the army, and he reveals how their mother tried to reach out and take back her children. However, she received a threat from Clark, warning her not to contact them again or he would beat the children unrecognizably. Julianne had saved up money for lawyers and everything, but then she got sick and died of leukemia. Seeing Kaya's success, Chase attempts to re-enter her life, but her repeated rejections lead him to lose control, and try to assault her sexually. Though Kaya escapes by striking him with a rock, she warns him not to bother her again, or she will kill him. This death threat is overheard by a fisherman, who later gives a statement against her in court. After Chase's attack, Kaya begins to feel unsafe all the time, spending nights outside her house hiding in the bushes. One day, as Tate arrives to check on Kaya, he is outraged to see the bruises on her face. Despite his desire to beat the shit out of Chase, Kaya implores him to leave it be and let her move on. Tate then encourages her to attend the meeting with her publishers in Greenville, and gives Kaya his red beanie. It is unclear whether Kaya kept the cap. If she did, it raises questions about how wool fibers from it could have ended up on Chase's jacket if their relationship was already ended. The following week, everybody saw Kaya leaving the town for her meeting in Greenville. She meets with the publishers over dinner, and it was later that night when Chase lost his life. But the publisher claims they had another meeting with Kaya the next morning, and that she seemed perfectly normal. Even so, Chase's family lawyer learns that they stayed at separate hotels, and shows that Kaya stayed at a hotel close to the bus station. He claims she took an overnight bus trip to the town and killed Chase. On the last day of the trial, Jody, Mabel, Jumpin, and even Tate attend to show their support for Kaya. Based on what Chase's family lawyer claimed before, Tom makes one final effort to defend Kaya by stating that it's really impossible for her to leave town in the bus without anyone witnessing her. She also has to find Chase in the middle of the night, lures him to the tower, kills him, wipes away all the evidence, and then, after completing all of these actions in less than an hour, catches the last bus back to Greenville, which Tom claims doesn't make any sense. He then advises the judges to make decisions based on the facts presented in this courtroom, rather than on what people have said and thought about the Marsh girl for her entire life. When they're waiting for the judge's decision, Tom tells Jody and Tate that whatever the decision is, they must accept it. And then the decision has been made.
Have your honor.
We, the jury, find the defendant not guilty.
Miss Clark, you are free to go.
Thank you.
Finally, the moment everyone has been waiting for arrives, as the jury finds Kaya not guilty of first-degree murder in Chase's death. After the case is dismissed, Kaya and Tate reconcile and spend their lives together, enjoying the beauty of the marsh. Tate asks if she wants to marry him, and she thinks they already are. As time goes on, Kaya keeps working on her books, and is frequently visited by Jody's family. And just like that, the two continue to live in the marsh and grow older together. One day while boating alone, Kaya sees the spirit of her mother, who has come to take her to the afterlife. Finally, with tears in his eyes, Tate watches Kaya die on the boat. While going through her belongings the days after, Tate discovers a book, with a quote stating, "Every creature does what it must to survive, and sometimes for prey to live, its predator must die." The quote is accompanied by a drawing of Chase. And then it's at this point that he finds the missing seashell necklace with bloodstains on it. This discovery leads Tate to realize that Kaya truly did murder him, in order to keep her life as prey. The movie ends with Tate tossing Chase's necklace into the water, concealing Kaya's potential secret forever. Okay guys, that's all the recap of Where the Crawdads Sing 2022. Thanks for watching. See you again in the next video.